Hello everyone, we are sat in front of my bookshelf today because I wanted to do a little live read along for a very anticipated book, which is Sunrise on the Reaping, of course. I only want to film this for the fact that I feel like it will help me read because I have been struggling with that as of recently. I've been in a slump because I've been reading something for YouTube specifically, and it's very taxing on my mental energy because it makes no sense because it's YA novels and they make up their own lore, and that's fine. I apologize for my voice a little bit. I'm getting over a cold right now, so I do sound a little congested. I'm very excited to read this book, only for the fact that I wasn't a fan for the past Hunger Games releases, like when they came out in real time. I am very late to this, as you probably know watching this video. It's like been a few months since the book came out. I have had the copy of the book the entire time, but I've been in a reading slump and have had no motivation to read it, so I'm hoping that filming this video will, by product, make me read it. And I'm very excited because I've heard very good things about it. I have been spoiled for certain characters and everything because one of my old friends read the book, and even though I told her I wanted to read it, she still told me things about it. So I sadly do have some spoilers, but I'm hoping that they just flew right over my head because I tried to ignore them as best I could. It's update time, y'all. I'm here with my dog, who has to be on close watch because he just went outside and then proceeded to bark. You want to repeat what you just said? Anyway, I'm not in my room, hence why the background is very boring. I apologize in advance for how different I'm going to look in between takes because it's already been a time skip and I only read 2 chapters. So, yeah. So far, I am vibing with it just because it's giving like me reading the Hunger Games for the first time. Like, I feel like I'm in that world again. And the first 2 chapters, very eventful. Disclaimer in advance, this will be a spoiler review only for the fact that I don't know how to review books without telling you exactly what happened in what I read. Editing Natalie here, only for the fact that what she just said was a complete lie because she proceeded to not say any of the plot that happened in the first 2 chapters. And it was a lot of exposition, but that's still important for the rest of the book, so I really don't know how she just thought that we could gloss right over that. But we are introduced to Haymitch's mother and his brother. That's all who he lives with because his dad died in a mining accident, I do believe. And he is also friends with Burdock, who is Burdock Everdeen, aka Katniss's father. Pretty sure Burdock is in love with this one woman. I don't remember her name. And the actual meat of the second chapter is the reaping itself. And the reaping is on Haymitch's birthday, which sucks for him, but will be talked about for the rest of the book. They have double the reaping for both boys and girls because it's the 15th Hunger Games, so Quarter Quell is the double the tributes overall. And the first boy that gets pulled is a boy named Wyatt, and then 2 girls are called, and then another boy gets called, but he runs away from the reaping, and then they shoot him in the head. And they don't want this televised, so they cut the live showing of the reaping and like are gonna edit it together to make it seem like a good polished reaping. So they drag the boy's body off, and right when this happens, Haymitch's girlfriend named Lenora Dove tries to help the boy's mother carry his body away, and this gets her in trouble with a peacekeeper, and Haymitch goes to protect his girlfriend, which means that they pull him to get reaped instead. So Haymitch only got reaped because he was helping Lenora Dove get away from the peacekeepers, and he didn't actually get called. But then they fake it to where he gets pulled for the live broadcast, basically. And Plutarch, who is taping the whole thing, is helping Haymitch at least see his family one last time, because originally they're just going to pull them away after the stunt of the whole guy running away and stuff. So he gets to see his family one last time at least. All that happened in the first 2 chapters where we're like introduced into Haymitch's lifestyle and everything, and well, now the frame is just messed up without him in here. What the hell? And of course, his life with his awesome girlfriend, Lenora Dove. I love a man who's down bad. So every time Haymitch is just like, yeah, I want to go see my girlfriend, that's all I want to do today, it makes me happy. I already have seen some spoilers, so I know that him not refilling that water thing will come up later, and I'm choosing not to think about it right now. Where I ended was him getting shipped off on the train because he was protecting his girlfriend. He was protecting his girl. Like, it's so sad. Like, a man is just trying to be the example for what all men should be, aka protecting their girlfriends from harm, and yet he gets shipped off to the Hunger Games. Like, it's just not okay. A little thing about the actual book itself, the detailing on the book is awesome because it's like textured on the actual book cover, and I just thought that was really cool because I did take off the book sleeve because book sleeves actually want to rip my hair out, and I can't handle them. I do really love the detailing on the front, and also I figured out what this thing was. I was always confused looking at the symbol, but it's the flint thing that he gets from Lenora Dove's uncle, I think. See, it's already been long enough that I don't remember what I read with the 2 chapters, but like I do decently. If I get anything wrong in this video, that's just because my reading isn't what it used to be, you know? I'm not really rereading things for comprehension. It's like if I get the general vibe, then it's okay. That's simply because I've been in a crippling fanfiction era as of recently, and I don't want to speak on that. I'm going to read a little bit of this tonight to get a head start on things. Ignore my appearance. I haven't left my house all day here to read a little bit because I read up until chapter 5, so 2 more chapters, and a lot happened when they were on their way to the Capitol on the train, because obviously Mitch was in all of the marketing for Hunger Games because he's one of the tributes, and they completely edited his thing to be way different, and they edited everyone's, and so they watched their reaping, how like showed on television, because they can edit up the live and everything. So it was like changed, and then they gave him a birthday cake and we're trying to like film it because they want to like play into his sympathy. But then he didn't take part in the birthday celebration because snaps for that one, because he doesn't want to be cog in the Capitol's machine, basically. And also Maisley, who is like a very almost like prissy girl just because she had more money in 12 than everyone else. I love her. I can see how like things can be divided on her, but I think for the most part people love her, and also McKenna Grace is playing her in the movie. That's like the only thing I know, but like I love her in every way possible. I did just get a hold from my library for the audiobook for this, so I'm hoping that'll make me read faster, because I've been only reading like 2 chapters at a time because I get tired, because my attention span is completely shot. I have already watched 2 of those vertical movies today. I needed a mental break, and that was what came in the form of that. So anyway, I want to focus more, so I think I'm going to listen to the audiobook while reading along, because that will make the process go faster. This book is crazy, and the games haven't even started yet. But I forgot to mention when I was talking about the train earlier is that they don't really trust the other tribute for 12, since there's 4 of them, because the Quarter Quell, his name is Wyatt, because his family does bets on the Hunger Games. And so they're like, oh, we don't really trust him because he could have like something behind this. Hamish and another girl named Luella are allies for the games themselves. And that's just because they're both like the poor neighborhood and like trust each other because they already know each other. And they're kind of icing out both Maisley and Wyatt. Maisley isn't very happy about this because she's like, this guy really leaving me with him. Still, Hamish and Luella are like closer. So they plan to protect each other in the arena. And they finally get to the Capitol and have to get like the cleaning and everything done like in the original, except they literally spray them with like stuff to get bugs off of them, which inside their mouths as well. I would riot. But Maisley is especially fighting everything with the Capitol because their announcer, so like the FE version of for them, is just a major bitch. Like, she's awful. Maisley gets in a fight with her so much that they like actually physically tussle, and Maisley lands like a slap on her face. So go her. End well for her though, because she got beat up really bad with the tussle, so she has like welts all over her face and everything, and she still gets like cleanly wiped like all of the tributes, and so she has like stings all over her body. But they also have their chariot ceremony, meaning they get like their outfits and stuff, but the guy who styles for District 12 is some like old drunkard who just like doesn't really care because it's District 12, so he gives them the same coal miner outfits every single year, and they're hopeful because they're like, he says that he's giving a new one, but he ends up being super late and brings the same outfits as every year, so they get boring little coal miner outfits, and they are also really late to the chariot ceremony. And the chariot ceremony itself goes terribly wrong because the crowd is like jeering and stuff, and then someone shoots a firework in front of their chariot, which makes their horses go crazy and like crash into other chariots. And when they crash into, I think, District 6's chariot, they get flown out of the thing because there isn't really room for 4 people anyway. As Hamish is trying to protect Luella because they're allies, you know, she actually ends up dying. And at first, Hamish was hopeful that he was the one who was losing blood because he like felt it, but it wasn't him that got spared from the actual arena. So at least she does have to die a very gruesome death inside the arena, kind of dodging a bullet for the whole games themselves. But yeah, crazy chapter in itself, because like I don't even think it was that long. It was like 20 pages, something like that, but like so much happened. I'm into it now. Like I feel like the audiobook really helped. I'm now on chapter 9, so a few chapters later. Something about reading The Hunger Games again is so refreshing because it like reminds me of how much I like the other books. Like, they're so good. Sure, they are depressing. Like, I am so sad right now, but I don't know, I'm having so much fun. Right after Luella's death, Hamish takes her body and doesn't want the peacekeepers to take it because he doesn't want the Capitol to take her away and act like nothing happened. So he carries her body all the way up to where the careers chariots are. This makes one of the guys from District 1 very mad. So they're kind of beefing now. But he carries Willow's body all the way up to President Snow himself and then sets it underneath him from the balcony and then just starts clapping. He is so dramatic and I love it. I love how some of it mirrors the almost like the showmanship of Lucy Gray Baird, but also like what he taught Katniss and everything in the original series. And he's just like so theatrical about it. He like starts clapping and then he thinks that President Snow doesn't fuck with it at all just because he's like has no reaction to it. But they cut it off from the cameras, obviously. Like it doesn't show up in the final cut of the ceremony. But yeah, he literally just like puts her body there and then still claps. Love that for him. He gets in trouble for this, obviously. After this is when they meet their mentors for the first time because District 12 has no past tributes like the rest of the districts because the only tribute who won was Lucy Gray Baird, but obviously she ran away. And speaking of her, I think in chapter 5, Haymitch was talking about Lenore Dove because she is a Baird, a whole can of worms, but whatever. Obviously, she like was raised by the Covey family just because she didn't have actual parents, but she is quite the rebel. Like she was suspect by the peacekeepers for doing certain acts or whatever. She was never caught technically, but she burned the Pan Am flag for like one of the Hunger Games ceremonies like underneath the stage, which like is so diva of her. I love her. And Haymitch knows. He's like, yeah, that was definitely her, even though she didn't admit to it, just because that is her. And the way that she proved her innocence that it couldn't have been her was she read her entire will that she said she wrote the night before, and it like was a bunch of her meaningless objects to go to her geese because she takes care of geese. And I love that. She's such a diva. Anyway, back to the mentors. They have Wyrus from the original series, obviously, but she won the Hunger Games before, and she won by hiding in a blind spot because the whole arena was made of mirrors, which is like really cool. So she's like freakishly smart. And she's from District 3, and they also have from District 4 Mags from Catching Fire as well. She's just a sweetheart because she just likes protecting people. And they're honestly surprised that they get like higher district mentors because usually they just give them the bottom of the barrel people because they don't care about District 12. Also at the chariot ceremony, Haymitch meets a District 3 tribute named Ambert, who is creating a non-career alliance. So like all of the lower districts are teaming up against the careers because they win every single year. And Haymitch is like kind of wary of that because he wants to drop any alliances after Lila died. Max is also very understanding of Haymitch's whole feelings around Lila's death because it's very traumatic. He literally saw her die right in front of him. And so she like allows him some time to decompress after that. But the next morning after that, they are talking like strategy because they're the mentors, and it's before the first training session. And they are asking what they want out of the arena, and all of them kind of decide that they don't want to die like gruesome deaths that are long to watch for their families because they know that they're probably going to die, but they don't want it to be hard for their families to watch. And also Wyatt kind of throws shit a little at his own family because they are betters. Obviously they bet on the Hunger Games and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I don't want something that they can bet on, like how long my death is, which shows that he just is aware of all the betting stuff but doesn't necessarily agree with it on a humane level because he doesn't want to get betted on. And then they finally make it to training, which it differs from any of the training we've seen in the past books because Battlesong Wars and Stakes didn't have training. They were literally kept until the arena itself. So, but in the original they had like training before their training presentation for the scores, but the way that it works here is that they get their scores through every day of training, so the game makers are watching at all times basically. And 3 of them from 12 go to throw knives at first, and they talk with people from District 7 who are part of Ambert's whole alliance. And Haymitch talks to both Maisie and Wyatt about being part of it, so they're interested, so he's like introducing them. And this is when he decides that it's better to just join the alliance anyway, no matter what he feels about alliances. While he's minding his own business in the line, he gets sucker punched by the guy from 1 that he got beef with the whole chariot situation yesterday, which I think he punches him in the ribs, which is like the worst thing you can do. It sounds awful, but Haymitch is kind of taken back from that, but they don't do anything about it. A peacekeeper like tases him, but that's it. And Haymitch was so prepared to just stab him right then and there because he was holding a knife, but he didn't. And then both him and another girl from 7, her name is Regina, I think, they both look at each other because they're both holding knives and like, we could totally take down all these peacekeepers in this room. Like we outnumber them 13-1. Like I think about like 5 peacekeepers in the room. Like the amount of tributes in there overwhelm them because there's double the tributes, of course they do. But they just kind of like talk back and forth. They're like, we could totally take them down. And this goes into a conversation that they have later when they all group up with their big alliance of the different districts that have joined. And I think they end up with 6 districts in all because Haymitch takes kind of pity on District 6, who's very like small and feeble. All of their tributes are like skinny. And he offers the extra lunch they have because they provided 4, even though Luella isn't there anymore. So they join Ambert's alliance. So they have 6 districts in all that are like lower end to fight against the careers. And they're talking about how much numbers they have compared to them. So if they just team up, they can take them down. So then the careers don't hunt them and they hunt them instead. And also Maisley is helping a bunch of people like make tokens for their district because they're allowed to take one thing into the arena. And Hamich's is going to be his flint striker that he got from 12, obviously. But she's helping them make like pretty little tokens because she's really good at like making jewelry and stuff because she really likes jewelry and like making stuff pretty. So I love that for her. I just love that she's such a likable person. Like, because technically, Hamish describes how she's like feared in 12, and that's why people like are nice to her because they're wary of her. But honestly, I would love to hang out with her. She seems so fun, but she is very judgy to people's appearance. Like, she will tell you if your outfit isn't working, and honestly, I respect that. And probably the most monumental thing that happens at the training session is we learn that Ampert's father is actually at training, and that's because BD, who is also in Catching Fire, is Ampert's father, and the only reason that Ampert was even reaped is a direct punishment to BD because he tried to mess up a communications thing for the capital, like an act of rebellion almost, and so they purposely reaped his son. So he would have to watch him die, basically. And he has to be his mentor, so basically like lead him into his death and watch every moment before he's going to die, which is evil. Actually evil. And he teaches Haymitch how to make a battery out of potato and then hands him a bunch of materials to do so. Like, he sneaks it into his pocket. So we'll see where that goes. But the chapter ends with them traveling back to where they're staying, like an apartment. Haymitch gets stopped on the way there and has to go talk to President Snow about his show at the chariot ceremony. So his whole thing with Luella's body. We'll see how that goes. Coming to you handheld only for the fact that this line is hilarious. Haymitch is describing the library he's in because it's Plutarch's library because that's where he's supposed to meet Snow, and Plutarch is in charge of 12, and so he's kind of in charge of ordering them around and stuff. He's talking about how it'd be Lenore Dove's like dream to be in there because she loves books, and he was talking about how sometimes in 12 he would trade out things for books for her specifically, and one time there was a paperback of things about poultry. He said he got it for her, and I quote, "Even though it was mostly talking about chickens and she's a goose girl." Now imagine if your boyfriend described you as a goose girl. That's just hilarious to me. Like, I get it, she loves geese. I think we've established that she loves geese. Like, and also when he's talking about Lenore Dove, he's like, oh yeah, like when I got her books, like she was always so happy. And then he's kind of a freak because he's like, yeah, and the kisses that followed. We get it, you love your girlfriend. He is true 16-year-old boy at the end of the day, you know? I'm back from 42%, which is chapter 13, and where we left off last, it was Haymitch in the library in Plutarch's house, and obviously Plutarch's house is very nice because he is a capital family, he's very rich, and Snow is talking about how he used to know a Heavensby because it was in his class, which we see in Battlesong Princess 6 as well. So, funny thing about Snow is that he's avidly throwing up blood when he gets to the library, which love that for him. And that's because he claims that it's food poisoning from some bad oysters that he had with the guy who was in charge of the chariot ceremony. And as Plutarch is running around trying to get him milk, he sends Haymitch to get it out of a fridge from the bar, and Haymitch purposely drinks it so that the president can't have it, because if he's going to try to kill the president, he's going to do it indirectly. And after throwing up a few times, Snow starts to get better, but Plutarch is out of the room at this point, and so him and Haymitch talk one-on-one. Snow is talking a little bit too closely about 12, because obviously we know that he knows about it, but Haymitch is thoroughly confused on why he knows certain details about 12, like how the seam works and stuff like that, and specifically about the covey, because he has to look at his flint striker and then he sees an inscription on the back, which Haymitch didn't even notice. It says like their thing they always said to each other, which is like, I'll love you, all fire, or something like that. It's like a covey saying. But then he asks who has the initials LR, because that's what it is engraved on the back, and then all Haymitch is Lenore, and then Snow is like, oh, let me guess, what color is it? Because he knows that coveys use a color. He needs to get Lucy Gerbert name out of his freaking mouth. I don't even care if he's talking about her indirectly. That man needs to keep away. And as they're talking, Snow also says a euphemism that's from like District 12. It's like the saying about how you attract more things with honey than vinegar or something like that. So like being sweet. Snow basically threatens Haymitch and saying that like, you better watch your behavior after the stunt that you pulled with Luella, because I will plan the death in the arena to be worse if you act badly before then, because he is going to make his girlfriend and his family suffer, basically, by watching him die. Just an evil old man. Like, and then also him throwing up blood wasn't just because he got food poisoning, it was because he freaking poisoned the oysters for the guy who ran the chariots and wanted to die, because he ruined a bunch of stuff and killed the tribute, you know. And obviously Snow was on his grind from the original, when they talked about in the original series, of poisoning people and then surviving the poison and just moving on. So he's already in his bleeding era, like he's bleeding out his mouth. And then as they're finishing their conversation, he's like, oh yeah, my family has euphemism too. Snow lands on top. Which, like, when he said it in the movie Ballad of Tom Cruise Snakes, I could get behind it, because I was like, that's Tom Blythe saying that. Like, he can say that. Snow lands on top. This crusty ass old man, get away. Like, get District 12 out of your freaking mouth. And then to put a cherry on top, he says to Haymitch, yeah, I have a late birthday present for you. Strolls in a freaking genetically engineered Luella. Exact copy. And basically she's a robot, and all she can say is like, my name is Luella. I'm from District 12, which, like, is actually evil. He's actually evil. That's crazy. And Plutarch meets this fake Luella, and he's like, oh, what's this bitch doing? Because she's like crazy. But he talks to Haymitch and he's like, sorry, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Like, he just said he had to talk to you. And Haymitch is like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then they get sent back to the apartment, and all of them are like, what is this? And Haymitch is like, yeah, she's basically like a mutt. Like, we kind of just have to keep her here because she really can't do anything. As they're eating their dinner, they nickname her Lulu because she's not the real Luella, and it doesn't feel right to call her Luella. She is basically freaking the fuck out because Mags asked her if she's from District 11, because obviously she is a actual human that they just genetically changed and tortured to act like Luella and look like her, basically. So they just changed her appearance like surgically and then tortured her so much that her brain is fried. And Max just takes her to like sleep because she's freaking out. And this is when they debrief the whole training session that they had and like what they think the arena will be, because they think that the hints are going to be given before. And they think that it's going to be wet from different tarp things that they have at training, and then dark because of the whole potato thing, and maybe have potatoes in the arena because of that. So that's what they've gathered from their training day. And they all decide to sleep in the same room because they want to practice for the actual arena. As Haymitch is practicing taking watch for the rest of them, the power goes out for the whole building, and then BD comes into the room and wants to talk to him about taking down the arena, because they talked about it in the training session about how like Haymitch wants to outsmart the arena like Lyris did by finding a blind spot and stuff, and also like taking down the arena from the computer inside of it. That's what they talk about in the middle of the night here. And they basically talk for like 10 minutes because they only have as much time as the security cameras are down when the power is out. And they just BD explains a plan of like taking down the trapdoors that they come up through at the beginning of the games and flooding the computer underneath, because there has to be computer aspects to release like mutts into the arena and stuff. And so he is planning on using Haymitch to do that. And after this, obviously Haymitch goes back to bed, but Maisley is awake and is wondering like what he was doing. So she's kind of suspicious of him, only for the fact that he's like hiding it because BD told him not to tell anyone. And they decide not to say any secrets around Lulu specifically about like alliances and stuff, simply because she has like a tracking in her ear that buzzes every so often to have her act right. And so they think the Capitol's, she's basically like a listening device from the Capitol. And they know that Snow is listening to all of their combos as well, because he directly mentions one of their conversations when he's talking to Haymitch about mutts that they're going to put in the arena and how they're going to be worse than like these past years. And at training the next day, Haymitch is trying to get District 9 to join their big alliance because they were hesitant when Amber asked them. So he is just not like asking them directly, but just kind of like hanging around them at the like tarp building station or whatever. And the District 1 guy, I wish I could remember his name, there's just too many people in this freaking book. He comes up and smashes one of the like tokens they have. It's like a sunflower necklace, smashes it on the ground. And so the girl like starts crying because it's like her thing from her district. And Maisley comes up to like help her rebuild it. And so they like Maisley, and so they're thinking about joining the alliance now. They're like kind of warmed up to them. And then the individual meetings for getting their actual training scores happens, which is crazy. But Haymitch goes in and has no idea what he's going to do, only for the fact that he's just going to like change up his story to obviously not talk about the whole taking down the arena thing, because that's kind of a secret. And he makes the narrative that he lost all of like the hope that he had for the actual games because Luella died, and he basically gives the impression to the game makers, he's like, yeah, you're killing all of us, so why should I care? And he just says, yeah, just want to make it home to my girlfriend and my family. So he just plays off that he doesn't really care about his alliance members and like is willing to kill any of them. He just wants them protecting him until he is like the victor. And he thinks that he came off just like neutral, unlikable, but still like strategical, so they will give him like a mid score. But when they get back to receive their scores, Wyatt and Maisley get a 6 and then Lulu gets a 3. That's just because she's like basically brain dead. It's not that unheard of. But then Haymitch gets a 1, which is like historic. Like no one gets a 1 or a 2. Like no one is even that bad. Even people who are like frail, they get like maybe a 4. Like a 4 is a pity. Lulu was a special case because she was literally like brain dead, but he gets a 1 for just basically giving the impression of like, oh yeah, you're just murdering us all, which like is true. He was speaking facts. The exact opposite of when they gave Katniss like the highest score because she shot an arrow at them. I guess they do not like verbal attacks. Anyway, this doesn't put them at a great spot for sponsors because obviously they sponsor based off their training scores and everything like that. And so they really want to make it up in his interview and like make him seem a bit better. And after these training scores, they also have to turn in their tokens to be checked before they can actually go in the games. And so Haymitch begrudgingly has to give his fun striker over, and they do get cleared by the next morning, which is nice. But Maisie asked to look at it because she asked to look at it with it the first night that they were on the train, and he said no because Lenora Dove does not like Maisie. So he's like, I'm not going to give my girlfriend's gift to you. But he's like, yeah, the fuck, whatever. You're my ally, whatever. I don't care. And she says it's pretty, whatever, just because. And she's like, yeah, the Covey have an eye for beauty. He mentions that Maisie has a pin from one of Lenora Dove's uncles, like he made it. And she starts talking about Lenora Dove and how Lenora Dove like basically hates her guts. And she says it's because she knows one of Lenora Dove's secrets, which the only thing she says is that like there's a reason that she has orange paint on her fingers when she goes to play shows because she's like a singer and performs and stuff. There's a reason why she has orange paint on her. And he was just like, I have no idea what the fuck that means. He's like, I don't think you're saying anything like directly bad about my girlfriend, but like I don't know what that means at all. And he's like, just tell me like what it is. And she's like, no, unless you have something to trade for it. So he is completely unaware of anything. And I don't know if this is a spoiler or like I just knew it based off something I read, but I think it means that she's basically like painting rebel things on the walls with orange paint, and that's why she's covered in all. It's basically to say that like she's a hardcore rebel, and Haymitch like kind of already knows that, only for the fact that he like knows deep down that she's doing these rebellious things. Like it's not unheard of. She was the one fighting at the reaping, which means that he had to protect her. Like it's not she burned that pin and flag. Like she's done it before. He's aware. And then they are doing practice for their interviews because they are that night, and they're doing it with the evil lady who was announcing their reaping and stuff. That's just like so capital brained and awful. And Maisie's kind of ripping into her when she's doing her practice, and she's basically bad mouthing the Capitol the entire time in like their fashion sense. And they're like, it's a strategy. At least you'll be memorable. Like it's fine. And Haymitch kind of already has upper hand in the fact that people will remember him because he got the lowest score ever. They're like, we need to know the story behind that. But Wyatt does his practice as well, and he's talking about like odds and stuff since he's a bet maker, so he knows everyone's odds in the games themselves. And they're like, okay, just act smart. You got that. She doesn't even try with Lulu because she can only repeat like the same 2 things over and over again. But with Haymitch, they want to go with the mysteriousness of his rebellion. So like not necessarily saying the things that he did. They can't mention the Peacekeeper fight at the Reaping because that was edited over. And they can't really mention the thing with Luella either because that was also edited over. But they need a reason to say that where he got a 1 with the game makers, and so they just are planning on saying that he's a mysterious rebel and like he didn't do anything specific. And then another problem arises with the fact that their stylist is in his like apartment and completely out of it and like screaming and doesn't have the outfits for their interviews, which is important because they literally need new outfits other than their training outfits. They don't have any extra clothes for them. But apparently he's locked up in his apartment because he's licking frogs. It's like a type of drug that can get you high, I guess. Because one of their, it's kind of like their stylist, it's like their cleanup crew, kind of the one that like disinfected them to begin with, runs in and that says, we think the toad venom rumors might be true. And then Mean Lady, whose name is Drusilla, she says, that man's been licking toads since the war. That line is hilarious to me. Just like, that man's been licking toads since the war. Wyatt asked the same question of why is he licking toads? And they say like, oh, it can make you high or whatever. But that's crazy. That's a type of drug. Licking toads? That's disgusting. And direct response to the question of why does he lick toads? Drusilla says because he's a reptilian freak. So there's that. But more of the story is that they don't have outfits and they're kind of freaking out. And then none other than Effie Trinket comes in with clothes and stuff. I think I'm going to stop here tonight and then read a little bit tomorrow, but this has definitely been a better exercise. I've actually read way more with this audiobook, so thank God for that. I would have done this when I first got the book, but all holds of the library were filled, obviously because the book was brand new, but now that I can actually get a copy, this is very nice. Like, I think narrating it's kind of taking me out of it, but like it's not enough because I'm reading along with it. Only for the fact that I was like saying things very differently in my head when I was reading it rather than him saying it. That's just because I also have it on 2.5 speed. I will see you next time when I read again. I'm now at 50%, so I read 2 more chapters. As they're getting ready for their interviews, Effie comes in and then gives them some old family heirlooms that she had, and she is one of the stylists. She is her older sister. Shout out to her, that's where she comes in. But she gives them outfits and everything, and like Loki saves the day. And at the actual interviews, she gets the credit of their whole outfits and everything. Because their old stylist who was licking toads, he shows up and brings like a giant snake. Lulu ends up holding it like a Britney Spears moment, where like she's holding it on her shoulders and she's walking around the entire interview like that. And I love that. Before Himch's interview, he talks to Beatty at the like buffet table about the actual plan in the arena, which he just has to run north and then flood the openings where the mutts will come out of the arena. So like the underground compartments, I do believe. He's supposed to meet up with Ampert to do the actual like flooding business. And there are explosives inside of District 9's like necklaces because they're like hard shell flowers. And they snuck that past the token thing. And so now they are using them as explosives to do the flooding. And then Haymitch does his interview, like acting like a rascal or whatever. So he talks about how he makes illegal liquor in 12. And then just jokes off. He's like, oh, that's illegal. So he goes last out of everyone. So he kind of like stands out in comparison to everyone because he got a 1, which is like monumental. And then he was like talking to the crowd and everything. So people like him. And throughout the interviews, they mostly just talk about the two alliances. So the careers, obviously, but then the newcomers is what they call Ampert's alliance and everything. So they're talking about that because this is like the first year that they made alliances before the actual arena. And then when they're leaving the interviews, Haymitch gets pulled by Plutarch again, and he gives him an opportunity to take a phone call. And at first, Haymitch thinks he's like, oh yeah, I'm getting called by President Snow. I must have done something wrong in my interview again. But he actually gets a call from Lenora Dove because she is at basically like the police station in 12, and they arrested her for singing when Haymitch got a 1 because she went and sang like rebel songs in the square. The only problem that they had with her singing was that a crowd joined her and started singing the songs as well. So it's like it's giving a group rebel thing. She got arrested and is going to be like let out the next day. So it's not that big of a deal. But they got to have one last conversation about like how they love each other or whatever. He basically tells her like, even though I'm here, don't do crazy shit and get arrested. Like I don't want you to get killed. And she's like, okay, I'll try. And then Plutarch talks to Haymitch about the actual ways of the arena, and Haymitch is very confused as to why he would like be telling him and why he'd be part of the plan to take down the arena. He just pretends like he doesn't know anything about the uprising, but takes in all the information. And Plutarch says that the sun is the same as it is outside the arena, so it rises from the east, which is helpful because then Haymitch will know what direction is north. And then he also says that the openings for the mutts will be underneath like these clusters of flowers because the game makers went to the Plutarch's like flower gardens and were talking about them. Haymitch now knows where he's supposed to be flooding. And then Haymitch also decides to like basically go off by himself in the arena because he's part of that whole plot and doesn't want the rest of the alliance to like bring him down or get killed because of him, because the game maker is going to target him from getting a 1. And so he doesn't want other people to die by being near him. So he's going to go off by himself. He tells one of the people in 6 about that, I think, and then they like spread the word. And then him and Maisley talk about it before they go to bed because she's like, oh, so you don't want us as allies? And he's like, I just don't want to get you guys killed. Haymitch finally makes it into the arena itself. It's like a very nice like meadow. And so he's very confused because he's like, this all looks too good to be true. There's like a nice grass, like a stream that looks like beautiful water. And he runs away from the cornucopia itself by snagging one backpack and just running to the north because he doesn't want to be in the whole bloodshed. And 20 people get killed right off the bat, which out of 48, it's a good percentage. But yeah, he just runs north and then is going through the woods and sees a bunny drink out of the stream that he just drank out of, but then it collapses and is dead. So he realizes that the water is poisoned and tries to vomit up what he has drank, but can't do it all and like feels the effect of poison in his body. But then he has some tablets in the backpack that he took that like help with overeating. So they basically like help you vomit up anything that you've eaten or drank. And so he takes some of those and gets all the poison out of his body, but he's still like really weak after. And he's like going through like after effects of it and is like shaking and has like a fever, but he finds some like blueberry bushes, I think, and hunkers down in there for the night and then sees all of the people who died for that day up in the sky with like the cannons and stuff. And Wyatt is the only one who died from his district, which is sad. Most of them are from like 8 and 9. I think all of the ones for 8 and 9 all died. And then a few of the careers died, but not enough compared to the newcomers. Like a lot more of the newcomers died. And then I think 2 other people died other than the bloodshed of the 20, because that was probably from the poison in the arena, because both the water and the food are poisoned. So like there's apple trees raspberry bushes, all that. There's a bunch of food, but all of it's poisoned from the natural arena. But Hamish just goes to bed because he is still dealing with the effects of his poison endeavor, whatever. But he wakes up in the morning to a bunny coming to come see him, and so he tests out his food in his backpack by giving the bunny a little bit, and it doesn't die. So he's like, okay, my food is good then. He also gets 6 potatoes in his pack, but he gave Maisley the potato stuff that Beatty gave him during training, and so he can't really make a light with it. The bunny then gets scared off because Lulu comes to find him, and she was being told in her earpiece, like from the capital, to go find him. Because to the south there was mountains, and then to the north there was the woods. Hamish was like the only one who went to the woods. The rest of the people went to the mountains, and so Lulu was the only one who went to go find Hamish in the woods. So Hamish takes her around just to go look for the flower things that he's supposed to look for to take down the arena, and he's on the lookout for a rock that can catch a spark with his foot striker, and then also the mut portals. And he's also, I don't know if I said this, but he's blowing up a tank of water, I think. But as him and Lulu are looking around for the different flower things, Lulu finds a plant that was in 11, and in the arena she's remembered like songs that are specifically in 11, so they're like, oh yeah, for sure she was a girl from 11 before she was like genetically engineered to become this fake girl, you know. But she finds a plant that is in 11, and so she like sticks her whole face in it because it reminds her of home. When she gets out of it, she starts like coughing and stuff, and so Hamish is like, oh, she's probably allergic, so he starts like wiping it down, but then she starts bleeding out of like her eyes, nose, and mouth and everything. And then she's like suffering to the point where like the modulator that's on her chest that they think is like keeping her alive, Hamish just pulls that off to take away her suffering, basically. So the cannon fires and she's officially dead. So now Hamish is all alone again. Hi, I changed settings because I was literally so stressed out beyond belief. Crazy few chapters. After Lulu dies, Hamish like takes her body and like the real Luella like carries it throughout the forest, so then the hovercraft can't find her. But then he's like, oh wait, I forgot that President Snow said if I do bad shit in the arena, then my family's gonna suffer. So then he backtracks a little bit and he's like, maybe I shouldn't do that. But then he gets attacked by butterfly mutts, which produce electric shocks all over his body. So he's running away from them. So the butterflies are chasing Hamish, and then he figures out that fire will get them to go away. And so he uses these plants that they had in 12 that like can produce a flame, and uses his flint striker to like help get that going, and then gets a good percentage of them gone. And then he follows them to where they are going back into the tunnels, because that'll be his opening, and manages to wedge a branch in the opening of the flower bed so that then he has like a little bit of a hole that he can wedge open to flood it. This kind of exhausts him, so he's like, I'm just gonna sleep. And so he sleeps for like obviously the whole night, and then like half of the day going into the next one, just because he doesn't have much to do. He just has to wait for Ampert to come meet him. He gets bored, and so he goes up to like the tallest tree that's in the forest and uses binoculars to go see out. And then he sees some blue in the meadow, and the District 3 people are wearing blue. So he's like, oh, that could be Ampert. And so he goes closer, and it is indeed Ampert. But he needs to have a cover to where he would be looking for Ampert, because obviously they can't know about the arena plan. And so he's like, oh yeah, what's the update on everyone else? And then him and Ampert talk for a little bit and are like secretly setting things up to get into the underground level below the flower bed. They're doing a great job pretending like that nothing is out to get them or whatever. And then Ampert goes to sleep, or like pretends to, for a little bit, until Hamish just decides in the middle of the night to enact the plan. And so he wedges open the opening with his spear and then goes underneath. Ampert watches from the top with the torch to just like be there when he gets done, because he only has 60 seconds to do it. Explosives will go off in 60 seconds, meaning he'll be blown up if he's down there too. So he is going through a hallway down in this sub-level below the arena, and he finds the water tank because it's a huge thing. It's like 20 feet high of just water, and he just places the explosive on like the closest place he can, and then wires it, because he learned to do that in school, I guess. And he runs out of there, and he's climbing the ladder to get back up when he gets attacked by a bunch of bats, and they're like clawing at him or whatever. And Ampert throws down the torch that he has with him so he can fight off the bats. And Hamish does not have enough time to get back up there before the explosive goes off, so he harnesses himself to the ladder with his belt, because it's like an easily taken off thing. He doesn't actually have belt loops, it's just like a thing that goes around your waist. So he holds that, and he manages to survive the blast and everything, and gets up above ground. Then he can't find Ampert anywhere, and so he's running around trying to find him. And Ampert is in the meadow being attacked by squirrels. It's literally crazy. I was crashing out at this point. I was so nervous. But Ampert's being torn apart by these squirrels, and like literally they tear apart all of his flesh to where he's just bone. They're not even attacking Hamish when he goes up and tries to like get them off. They're like specifically programmed to just kill Ampert. Hamish did promise BD to not have Ampert suffer because he knew that the game maker is going to target him anyway, and he feels really bad about the fact that he had to get torn apart in order for him to die. And the fact that when they take his body, it won't even be a body, it'll just be his bones. Like, that is crazy. I can't even imagine this being a movie. Like, this seems so out of, like, the scope of anything. I cannot even, like, see this happening on a screen. After he comes back from Ambert's body, he's like, oh, at least I accomplished my thing of blowing up the water tank, hypothetically flooding all of the computers underneath, which then will take away stuff from the arena. And it starts to work at first. Like, the sky above him flickers, and then he sees the real sky above him, and he's like, yes, it worked. So then he starts like screaming to the sky, and then he sings one of the Rebel songs that Lenore Dove sings, and it's about the goose and the comet or something like that. I don't know. It's basically a Rebel song. And then he's dancing around all happy, and then the sky comes back. So the arena sky comes back, and he's like, well, shit. So it didn't actually work. Even though he blew up the water tank, it didn't get rid of the whole arena. And then he's, as a last ditch effort, he climbs a tree and then looks at the mountain on the other side. And the mountain turns out to be a volcano, meaning all the people on the mountain are getting flooded with lava because it is erupting as he's looking at it. So that's awesome. I'm at about 65%. So I think I'm going to stop here for today. And then I just started part 2, the poster, and I will update you guys later. Hey y'all, long time no see. I've had another video out in the time that I've last read this book, and now. I just read 2 more chapters. To say the least, Haymitch is a little bit mad about the fact that he didn't ruin the arena, and then is seeing the volcano erupt all over the mountainside of it. And so he's like, oh, all those people are dead, because he had learned about lava. So he's like, oh, they're all burning to death. That's awful. And he thinks about like Maisley and everything, and he's like, oh yeah, really wish that she wasn't dying that way. That's brutal.
Whoa, that's brutal.
He ends up just hunkering down in a tree for like an entire day because he's just like depressed and doesn't want to be there anymore, because he kind of failed at his mission of breaking the arena, you know? And he hears the generator like still running, which is what is keeping the arena running even after he flooded the under part of it. His new mission is to go find the generator and destroy it, because he's like, oh, that'll definitely kick it off. So he's trying to get to the end of the arena. So just going north until he hits it. There's also a little bit of rain, and that's to wash away all of the ash from the volcano eruption. And so he collects like the littlest bit of rainwater because he's running out of water really quickly. He has like a good amount of food just because he got a sponsor gift that had like a whole feast. And he is overall just pretty sad. He's reminiscing on Lenore Dove and everything, and he's singing her song, which is about her being dead. So love that. He's also sad about Ampert's death still, because it was very traumatic, obviously. He finds this hedge and then like runs through it, and it turns out to be a maze. And so he gets so incredibly lost and gets like so scared that he's gonna die in there, because he's like, that's so embarrassing, which is so real. But he has Ampert's axe and then hacks through the like vegetation that he's in until he finds a bunny, which leads him out of the maze. And right when he finds the entrance back out into the forest, he gets attacked by a group of careers. So not great. In these group of careers, I think is 2 people from District 4, and then Panache, which is the guy from District 1. I finally learned his name. And he, out of pure like instinct, he kills the 2 people from District 4 just because they're like coming at him, and he manages to get them with the axe, and he's good. But Panache is kind of kicking his ass because he took his dagger away, and then he's like holding him with sword to his neck. So not ideal. And Haymitch is literally accepting that he's gonna die just because he cannot get out of the situation, until Panache gets shot in the neck with a poisonous dart. This is by none other than Maisley Donner. She is such a diva. I love her. I'm so glad she's back. Haymitch and Maisley decide to team up now because obviously, why would they not? There's like not that many people left. And now 3 of the careers are dead. And that night, as they're like having dinner and stuff, they see the recap of everyone who's died. And the day before, there was 26 out of the 48. That was after day 3. And then that night, so day 4, they were down to only 10 tributes. 10. That is crazy. And this is because of the volcano eruption, which actually Maisley explains wasn't lava itself. It was like kind of like a clear gel thing that gave you chemical burns if it touched you. So that's why a lot of people died, but also just because a lot of the newcomer alliance died really easily because they were weak and the careers just took them out. And then obviously the 3 careers that Haymitch and Maisley killed are taken out. And so there's only 2 careers left out of all 48, which is crazy. I don't know exactly how many people from the other districts are left, because I know that the entirety of a lot of districts are dead, like 3 and 6, like they're completely dead, and a few others. The next day, Haymitch and Maisley decide to go look for the packs that the careers had because they could have food in them because they're running out of food to say the least. And they also get a sponsor gift that was like a certain soup that they had in 12 that was like specifically for when people died. And so they like get a little taste of home and they're really happy. And that was from Mag specifically because she's a real one like that. They do this because Maisley wants to, and Hamish is hell bent on going back to that shrub and like getting through the end of the maze to find the edge of the arena, but he doesn't want to say that out loud because he doesn't want the cameras hearing it. So he's just really hell bent on doing this. Maisley's like, why the fuck are you so held up on this? She agrees to go look for food and then go with him to the stupid shrubs. When they do that, they finally get to his maze, and they're just gonna break the greenery straight north. So then they don't have to like worry about the maze or anything. And when they start doing this, they like cutting through the first leaves, and then a bunch of ladybugs swarm them from the trees. And these are not normal ladybugs because nothing in this arena is normal. So once they like grapple onto his skin, they grow in size and then like explode with a bunch of his blood. I'm gonna try and get to 75% tonight. I think I might go longer. Who knows? I know in my heart that Maisley's gonna die, and I don't want it to happen. So honestly, like I'm gonna chicken out and probably leave before that because I'm scared. Like I know Hamish has to win, but I don't want her to die. She's such a diva. Little baby is behind me. Oh, anyway, I read 2 more chapters and I'm at 77% now. I like want to finish the book so bad because I'm like, oh, I want to know what happens, but I need to like take a pause because I literally got stressed out like halfway through the second chapter I read and went on Instagram Reels. Say the least, I'm done for the day. After they get swarmed with a bunch of ladybugs, they find out that if they just pinch them off individually, then they can get them off and not lose as much blood. But they still end up losing quite a bit of blood from the experience, and they decide to ditch the hedge and not really go there anymore. And then while they're on their way back, they hear a noise like a crying baby. And the way that Hamish is describing the noise, he's like, God, there better not be a fucking baby mutt out there, which sounds terrifying. It reminds me from Resident Evil 8, the big baby monster that they have. God, I fucking hated that thing. I don't play games for context. I really only watch playthroughs of anything, and I watch so many Resi 8 ones because I love that game. Visually, it's a great game to watch. I was terrified of that thing every single time, and I literally wanted to skip the section every single time I was watching someone play it. I don't like the way that it sounds, and I don't like the way that it looks. But moral of the story is they hear some baby noises. They run out to the clearing because they're like, what is that? Because they hear, I think it's their ally from District 11, but don't quote me on that. They hear someone screaming, so like, oh, that's probably him. Let's go see if he's okay. And he was not okay because the baby noises was a big porcupine that was shooting the spikes at him, and he was, howling in pain. But they come up with a plan that Hamish is going to throw his axe at the porcupine because from Lenore Dove, he learned that they have to touch in order to shoot the quills at you. He is sadly mistaken because no animal is normal in this arena, and so it shoots from like far away, and they barely block it with the tarps that they have, and it hits Hamish's nose and Maisley's cheek. But they lure it away with like olives that they have into the forest, and so they're like, get that away. But then they try and give the guy from 11 an antidote, but it doesn't work. He dies, and so they call it a day. But I'm pretty sure another person dies from the porcupine incident. Don't quote me though. And then they look through their stuff, get new resources, but then go back to their camp, and there's only 5 people left, which is crazy. And it's the 2 careers that are left, and then Welly, who's a newcomer, and then Maisley and Hamish. And they decide to go look for Welly the next day. When Hamish is going to sleep that night, he like jokingly says like, oh, I'm gonna need a lullaby. And so Maisley sings a song from like their childhood, and it's about ladybugs. Little callback to their traumatic endeavor earlier that day. But it's about like fire. And so Hamish has the idea of, oh, fire, ladybugs, we should go back to the hedge tomorrow, but he doesn't say it out loud because he doesn't want the game makers to realize that he's really obsessed with going north. Also, I think it's at this point that him and Maisley kind of talk about the poster of their time in the games and whatever, and wanting to not have the capital use them if they do win. And Hamish at this point is like gunning for Maisley to win because he doesn't think that the game makers will let him win after his whole stunt with the water tank. And so they're talking about different posters, and it's just a cover word basically for acts of rebellion. Maisley keeps hinting at Lenore Dove's, act of rebellion stuff. And Hamish is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because she can't say it, obviously. And then the next day, they are looking for Welly. Hamish is trying to lead Maisley north, and then she's like, why are you so obsessed with going north? Like, she's not going to be up here. I'm convinced that she's not going to be up here. She just asks, like, oh, is this for your poster? As in, like, code word for, are you doing some rebel ass shit right now? And he's like, no, it isn't. I just want to go look at the hedge again. And she's like, okay, I'm trusting you in whatever the fuck you're doing. And when they're stopping for water, they get ambushed by the 2 remaining careers. As they're running away, they run to what is a drilling noise, and they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't go near that because it's mutts, just because a lot of the arena sounds like it's running by a generator, you know? But they stumble upon game makers who are in the arena cleaning up stuff from, I assume it's leftover stuff from the volcano, but I actually don't know. They're in there cleaning, and so they are all gooped together because they're like, what are you doing here? Because they obviously weren't supposed to be seen. And so Maisley's kind of bad mouthing them because she's like, the Capitol doesn't like you that much. They put you in the arena. And then as the game makers are trying to go back to the sub level because they don't want to get killed, one of the careers throws a knife at one of them, killing them. And then Maisley shoots another one with a poison dart. Haymitch is kind of stunned when this happens. And so he's like not really fighting. But the only person that backs Maisley up is the career who's like helping kill the game makers. They end up sending hovercrafts that drop like bombs to where they are because they were killing game makers. Haymitch grabs Maisley and they run and like wash out their eyes from getting bombs basically. But so the 2 careers are still alive, I think. And then Maisley yells at Haymitch because she's like, you're supposed to be my fucking ally. Why weren't you backing me up back there? He just was in shock. He didn't do anything. He was kind of having an existential crisis because he's like, why did I not kill those game makers? Like, I can't even say that I'm not a murderer because he killed those 2 other careers. And he's like, I had no excuse. I was stunned, you know? And he goes back to a conversation he had with Plutarch about like how he doesn't fight back against the Capitol. And that's because he's both scared, and he says that he's so used to being like under the boot of Capital almost. Like it's better to conform rather than rebel, just because like the example from the beginning of the book of the guy who tried to run away from the reaping. And they settle their differences over a shared thing of sardines because Maisley eats most of them because she's like, fuck you, I'm eating most of the sardines. And then she gives him 3 because they're still allies, but she's just mad at him. And they settle their differences. It's going to be okay. And then she says, let's go check out your stupid shrub. We'll go back, like, if you're so hell-bent on it. He uses a blowtorch that they got from one of the careers packs and then basically runs a line through the shrubs. And then when the ladybugs fly out, he has Maisley with a branch just burn them when they come out so then they can't get them. Almost like when he burned the butterfly mutts. And they do make it to the other side of the shrubbery, and it is indeed the end of the arena, which is a cliff that drops off to the generator. We'll see what he does with it next. I only read 2 chapters, and what a 2 chapters. Holy crap. First of all, we pick up right where they're looking over the cliff that they find on the edge of the arena, and Haymitch is happy because he's like, oh, maybe I can do something here to break the arena. Him and Maisley are kind of thinking of the plan of splitting up now because they still have to look for Welly. So Maisley goes back to get their packs from where they were, and Haymitch is just standing next to the cliff or whatever. Then he hears Maisley start to scream, and so he runs after her. And she's being attacked by geese mutts, which nail in the freaking coffin because Lenore Dove's animal. But they're also pink, which might be a jab at Maisley, but I actually don't know. They're like the squirrels that attacked Ampert, and so they're like specifically trained on her and don't really do anything to Haymitch when he tries to get them off. And sadly, he is not able to kill all of them in time because she gets punctured through the throat, meaning she dies. Bro, diva down, diva down. Like, I knew it was coming, but I also didn't know it was going to come like right when I started reading today, because thank God I stopped before when I did, because I would have been so sad. But yeah, I miss her already. And Haymitch takes like her death as a sign, like taking down the Capitol. He's like, I'll do whatever I can to take down the Capitol because of her death. His next order of business is he's going to go find Welly, because his plan is he wants to make Welly the victor because he doesn't want to be one himself. He wants to like kill himself and the career that's left as a final act of rebellion against the Capitol. And he also finds the stuff that Beatty gave him at the potato place for making a light with a potato. He finds that in Maisley's pack, and then also grabs her token, which was like a necklace to remember her by, basically. And he's running through the woods just calling Welly's name, because if he runs into the career, he can just kill them. And so he doesn't really care if he's drawing attention to himself. But then he finds Welly up in a tree because she is just like dangling a bell. Like, she can't even speak because of how starved she is right now. So he manages to give her water and some chocolate that is sent in as a gift. And then as they're going to bed up in that tree, because she's too out of it to even talk or like eat, and so he's basically just like letting her sleep for the night, and then he's going to cook her food in the morning. And it's not only Maisley who died. A little bit before this, it was the other girl who killed a game maker when they were in the arena together. Like, another cannon went off, and that was her. So they basically, the Capitol went and killed the 2 people who killed the game makers. He hears crying below at the bottom of the tree, and it has to be the only career that's left because she's the only other person in the arena. And she is crying just because it's a stressful environment to be in. But then he drops down a few pieces of chocolate because he's like, yeah, that's quite the poster for the Capitol. Is the tributes bonding over the fact that they have to kill each other, you know? And then Haymitch goes to sleep up in the tree, and when he wakes up in the morning, the career is gone, and he has to end up carrying Welly down the tree because she is too weak to climb down. And he is trying to cook her a potato that he has. Also, when he was up in the tree at night, he lit his little like potato light just to comfort Welly. And as a little jab at the Capitol, be like, yeah, I have illegal stuff in here. And when he wakes up in the morning, he sees that there's a bunch of black smudges on his hands, and he's like, oh, that's weird. It must have been from building that potato battery. But it's actually from Maisley's token, because her token was also a fuse thing like Ampert's was. And so Haymitch gets the idea. He's like, oh, final poster act, let me blow up the cornucopia. Because it's like the token of the Hunger Games is having the cornucopia every year. And so he's like, I'm gonna blow up the cornucopia with killing the career and then basically giving the victory to Welly, because he was like gonna kill himself in the explosion. But first order of business is he wants to get Welly alive more than she is, because she is like on her last leg. But it rained the night before, meaning all of the pine needles that are like there, not good enough to light a fire. He leaves Welly like hidden behind something and then traverses off to go find better pine needles. But then he gets a gift, which is nice because he's like, oh, food, that's awesome. But instead of his usual gifts, this one has a note and it says courtesy of the Capitol. And it includes a milk jug, which looks exactly like the one in Plutarch's library, which Haymitch sees as like, oh, this is definitely from Snow because I drank his milk, like when he was poisoned. And he's like, okay, so this milk is definitely poisoned, and if I give it to Welly, then I'm going to poison her because she needs it out of the two of us. But also, the people watching won't know that it's poisoned, and so they're going to think that I'm not helping my district partner. And so he's like, out of the choices I have, I'm going to drink this milk right here, right now. When he is about to do this, he hears a noise where he hid Welly, and so he drops the jug and runs over, and Silka, the last career, not only killed Welly, but cut off her head entirely. Actually evil. And Welly was very small, and that's why Haymitch was like very protective of her, just because she like could not defend herself for the most part. The fact that she cut off her head is crazy. And so Haymitch goes, okay, so now you're gonna fucking die because you cut off her head. He doesn't really care about winning. He just doesn't want her to win now because she killed Welly. And his plan is like, I'm gonna kill her and then I'm gonna kill myself. And so he the only thought in his head is that he is going to go one-on-one axe fighting with this career who's been trained like her whole life to fight with an axe. And so he actually does pretty well. He gets a gash on her leg, and then he's like defending himself pretty well until she gets a clean hit to his gut, meaning it's full cut open, his intestines coming out. So he makes a break for it. He's like, I'm gonna go run to the edge of the arena because maybe she won't follow me there. And he is holding in his insides. Actually craziness. But he makes it to the edge. Okay, he's like standing right next to the cliff. He is dead tired by this point. He's holding in his intestines. He's losing blood. And so he just collapses because his legs give out. And that's right when she throws her axe at him. And I forgot to mention this, but when he was at the cliff the first time with Maisley, he threw a pebble down there just to see how long of a drop it was. And the pebble bounced back right next to him. And so there's basically a force field on the other side of the cliff that will bounce anything back. And so when her axe gets thrown, the axe bounces back and hits her straight in the head. So she basically kills herself, and Haymitch is a winner by default. But Haymitch is completely like dead tired. He's like, I don't want to be alive. I want no victor for this Hunger Game. I am going to have a final act of rebellion against the Capitol because she's still like not technically dead. She's still like gurgling blood and things like that. And so he's like, I'm gonna make a little explosive because he has Maisley's token and then his flint striker and stuff like that. And so he's getting one ready, and he has like a fuse set up, and then he hears like a voice above that. It's like, Haymitch Abernathy, stop what you're doing. And he's like, yeah, fuck no. And so he throws the fuse down to where the generator is on the other side of the cliff. The last thing he hears, because he's so close to being unconscious right now, the last thing he hears is a big explosion, and he's like, I die happy. Obviously, he doesn't die, but that's where I stopped. So, like, he's such a diva, bro. Because, like, not only did he have, like, 3 separate plans to blow something up, the last one did work. Sure didn't work in the way that he wanted, judging that there is a victor, because we know that. You know what? He did give a big fuck you to the Capitol, that's for sure. But now he's even in a worse spot because he's alive, and now they can target anyone who he loves. We'll see. I actually feel like I'm gonna blow a gasket. So many things just happened, and it's also sad. Haymitch doesn't die in the games, obviously. They bring him out and medically bring him back to life by like stitching up his gut wound and everything. And he is in and out in this like hospital area where he is seeing a bunny like the one who helped him in the arena get killed by a snake over and over again. Or he's seeing Avoxes on the other side of him being tortured. And he is just stuck there because, you know, he's in so much pain and he's under like painkillers and stuff, and he's just stuck there. He holds out hope that he will die because he's thinking that they're gonna, for how much he did in the arena, they're not gonna let him be the victor and like be alive. He's just thinking that they're going to set him up for like a public execution, something along those lines. He's not that lucky. They keep it in the Victor apartment that they had for a while. The only communication that he gets from outside is the TV that they have in there, and it's playing old Hunger Games clips from so long ago that he didn't see them in person. And one plays one night, which is the clip from Lucy Gray's Hunger Games where she is singing the Ballad of Lucy Graybeard. And I was actually gagged to my core because what do you mean? What do you mean that they're playing to him, Lucy Gilbert? And then at the end of the clip, she reaches out to someone, curly blonde hair. Who's that? Haymitch pieces this shit together because he steps back. He's like, oh, Snow would have been 18. He knows everything about the Covey. There's that Covey girl that won for District 12 and went missing in a cute little freaking rainbow dress. This is actually unfair. It's actually so evil. Because what do you mean? What do you mean they show him the freaking song? Then he has just to live with that. And he crashes out over this because he's like, they are going to kill an Ordev. Like, there's no way that she's surviving this. He starts breaking stuff, and then Peacekeepers barge in, and so does Effie. And that's because he has to go to his Victor party. So not only are they showing him this stuff, but he's also a Victor. He just has to keep that control of the capital because they made him a victor even though he wanted to kill himself. Basically, they get him all looking presentable for this victor party, and Snow crowns him the victor and then says good luck on your homecoming. So Haymitch is now severely scared for what's going to be at home, but he has to go through all these capital parties because they have to send him back on the train, but they're not sending him back, and so he just keep on going to these parties pretending to be like a rascal victor because the way that they presented the Hunger Games to everyone, all of his rebel acts were taken out, and the only thing that they really kept was the force field because they had to discover that for the final death to happen. And the whole timeline is skewed. He doesn't seem tied to his allies at all. Like, he doesn't seem protective of Maisley until the very end, and he doesn't seem tied to any of his alliance members, even in the interviews and stuff, when in reality he cared for them and was going to die in defense of Welly in the end. But he is just presented as like this rascal who didn't care about anyone and just wanted to do anything to win the games. He finally gets sent back in the same kind of train compartment that he came in, and he is only fed like milk and bread, which nail in the coffin is Snow is constantly watching over him. He is actually being sent back with the bodies of Maisie Luella and Wyatt. That's just also in another compartment of the train that he is carrying that home with him, and like carrying the trauma of their deaths almost with him because he is not doing the best mentally. And when he finally makes it home, no one's there to greet him because it's like 5 a.m, it's dark, no one knows that he's there. And then he's like, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna see my mother again, like it's gonna be great. And then from the distance, he thinks it's the sunrise, and in reality, it's actually flames. And that's because his house was set on fire. And he knows it was set on fire because his mom is the most careful person about putting a fire out at night and like not, because their houses are very flammable in 12, especially if they're poor. He tries to run in there to look for his mom and his brother. But then Burdock pulls him out and is telling him like, yeah, your mom and Sid are in there and it's too burnt now. Like, we can't get them. And they basically force him to sleep with some sleep medicine because he is just going crazy. He wants to get inside the house no matter what. And even if he's going to die in there, he just wants to die with his family. He wakes up at Burdock's house. They are like nursing back to life because he is kind of destroyed a little bit. He has to wake up to go to the graveyard because they got the bodies of his mom and Sid out of the house and they are like in a casket together, but they're also honoring the 3 other tributes. They all go to the graveyard for 12, like the very small one, and Burdock sings The Old There Before. There are a lot of songs in this second to last chapter. And then also, I think on the train, Haymitch is singing The Hanging Tree in his head right after the funeral. Haymitch is like, you know what? Let me go see my girlfriend. And everyone's like, no, you really should not do that. She's at a hearing for the peacekeepers right now. Like, it's not going to be good if you show up. And that's because with the phone conversation that he had with her, how she said that, oh yeah, I'm being let out in the morning, it doesn't matter. She was never being let out in the morning. That was a complete lie, either from the peacekeepers or from her, because she is now just being let out once Haymitch is finally home and she has her hearing or whatever rebel act she committed. But Haymitch does listen to this advice and he's like, okay, then I won't go see my girlfriend. And he is just kind of wandering around with no purpose anymore because he doesn't have a house anymore, he doesn't have a family, and he can't go see his girlfriend. He does finally go to his house in the Victor's Village because he really didn't want to go there because it's sad, dreary, huge house for just himself, you know. Burdock is also trying to help him just because he doesn't even want to be alive. Like he doesn't want to eat, he doesn't want to do anything. So he is just sleeping via sleeping medicine. And he's wandering around 12, and then finally, like, he's also looking at his burnt down house, and then he's like, if I would have refilled that water the morning of the reaping, then they probably would have had enough water to set out this fire. And sure, the capital would have probably killed his family anyway, but it wouldn't have been what he sees as like his fault because he didn't refill their water when that could have stopped the fire because they were low on it. And then when he's sleeping in his house one night, he just like wakes up in the middle of the night and he's like, I need to see Lenore Dove no matter what. And this has been like a little bit of time passed since the hearing, I do believe. And he just wanders off to the meadow and he's like, I'm just gonna wait here. And because obviously she's not there. He just thinks that if she's gonna come somewhere, it's gonna be this meadow. And he just sits there all night and he's like, even if I die here, I don't even care. This is a peaceful place to die. And lo and behold, she does come with her geese. Shout out to her and her geese. He's just like taking it in again because he's like, oh, my girlfriend is so beautiful. Like I like never thought I would see her face again. They hug, they kiss, whatever, they reunite. And then she finds a bag of gumdrops, like the one that Hamish gave to Sid to give to her. And she's like, oh, sick. Gumdrops. And so he grabs one and he's like, oh yeah, pops it in her mouth because she loves gumdrops, you know? And then she says, oh, yay, now I can have more later. And he's like, what? What does that mean? She's like, oh yeah, the ones that Sid gave me, I put them under my pillow. And Hamish thought the ones that were on the rock were the ones that he gave Sid because that's the only one that he bought. So he then looks down at the bag and they're all blood red. And he's like, oh, so this is poison from Snow. And so he tries to get her to throw them up, but she's already swallowed one and like half chewed another one. And she hasn't eaten because she's been in prison. And so she doesn't have the ability to throw them all up. And it's also poison is running through her bloodstream already. And no matter how hard Hamish tries, her legs give out and then blood drips out of her mouth. Then she dies. So she dies from their shared gift, which was gumdrops. Like he always got her gumdrops. And this sends Hamish like off the deep end because every night now he's having nightmares of literally feeding his girlfriend's death to her because he gives the gumdrop that kills her. And he also like gets flashbacks because he was holding her body when she died, and then her uncles come out and take her body, and he is just stuck with that forever. Like he killed her indirectly, of course, but he's left with the guilt of that because if he hadn't been this rebel or whatever, then she wouldn't have gotten killed by his hands. Whatever help he was getting from Brock before, he stops that by, I'm pretty sure, throwing a rock at his girlfriend's head as like a way of like, stop helping me. And now he's just surviving off of the checks from the capital that come in, the food, and now taking sleeping medicine every single night to have the same nightmare of feeding Lenore Dove a gumdrop. In this last chapter, we get quotes from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven because it's where Lenore's song comes from. It's like the part where it's talking about a girl named Lenore, if you will, and the Raven saying nevermore. I had to read that shit in like, I don't know, middle school. Most boring fucking poem ever. But this shit actually brought me to tears in the last chapter. So he is just basically taking different excerpts from the Raven, throwing them in as he's almost like time skipping through life a little bit because he is just so out of it all the time that he is just going to sleep, waking up, having a traumatic experience, going to sleep again. But one day he's in a alleyway in District 12 and sees a orange posting on the wall that's something along the lines of like no reaping, no capital, like real messaging, you know, and it's in orange paint specifically. And then he recalls in the arena when Maisley was talking about how Lenore Dove had orange paint on her fingernails. And he's like, oh, this was her work, which like he already knew that she was a rebel. I don't know how this is like crazy to him, but like it's not that out there that she was spreading rebel propaganda on the walls. But then he is sad again because he's thinking about Lenore Dove. He has a nagging thing in the back of his mind, which is when Lenore Dove was dying, she said, promise to me there won't be another sunrise on the reaping. AKA, stop the reapings. Be the rebel that stops the Hunger Games for all time. And he's like, I can't do that. But he just has it in the back of his mind. But he's too miserable to even try and do any rebel work. Like, he is just completely done. But he has the thought that Lenore Dove's spirit is with him. He watches Capital News to make it, like, if her spirit stopped by, then he'd be, like, plotting, you know? But then he wakes up in a cold sweat, like he usually does. And he's like, I need to find her body. Because she isn't in the graveyard because she's a Covey. They would not put them in the normal District 12 graveyard. And so he is running through the woods because he's like, that's the place where she loves, you know, like they bury her in the woods. And he is just wandering around aimlessly until he runs into Burdock, who is hunting. Burdock as like a final nice act. Because he's still mad at him for throwing a rock at his girlfriend. But he leads him to a clearing, which is the Covey's graveyard, like their special one. And each gravestone has a quote from their different song. Like the first one is a quote that says, "Lady," he said, "Montclair," he said, "Montclair," and hit his face. And then on a different one, there is, "Yet some maintain that to this day she is a living child, that you may see sweet Lucy Gray upon the lonesome wild." Little Lucy Gray got a gravestone. And then finally, on the last stone, which is the newest one, was, "But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more." So he breaks down on his girlfriend's grave, of course. And he only goes to this gravestone because he's looking for her spirit. He's like, "Please reach out to me. I need to know your final message." And he buries his flint striker there because it was the last thing that she gave him. And so it's like his last gift to her. And also his like one act of rebellion, if you think about it, because he snuck that into the games. He did his whole hurrah with it, which was cut out of the games. After this, he's forced along the victor's tour, and meaning he has to go to all of the districts. And he's not happy about this, but Effie is in charge of it. And you know who's along for the ride? Plutarch. And at this point, him just like, "The fuck are you doing here?" Like, because Plutarch helped him with the whole taking down the arena, and he's like, "Why are you still being celebrated by the Capitol and like being able to do these tours?" And Plutarch is like, "I was under contract." And also, he's a Plutarch. They're not going to do anything to him. And in comparison, when he is being paraded all around these Capitol parties, he sees Mags and Wyrus, and they were both tortured after his games because they helped with a rebel plot. When he talks to Plutarch, he also learns that Beatty was not killed. That's because his wife is pregnant. And so they're probably just going to go through another torturing game for his future child. And also, Beatty is too valuable to the Capitol to kill because he is very smart, and so he can build stuff for them. But Haymitch talks to Plutarch in the unbugged part of the District 11 Justice Building, which is where Haymitch talks to Katniss after she like accidentally does the rebel sign and gets someone killed. And then finally, Haymitch is back home. He talks about how he doesn't talk to anyone except for when he goes to get alcohol. I'm back because I think my brain short-circuited and just I was unable to keep on talking. I was supposed to be saying the word alcohol, just forgot the third syllable. So ignore that. He just lives in solitude in his big Victor's house. This is actually heartbreaking. He said, "Every year on my birthday, I get gifted 2 more tributes to die." It's gotta suck having the reaping on your fucking birthday, because every year he has to train 2 kids that aren't gonna make it. And then also, this is when the quotes from the Raven stop, and that's just because the Raven is watching this man going insane. It ends with a line from him saying like, "And so I was stuck in my chamber," which is the Capitol's lock on him because he's constantly being watched by the Capitol. He can't do anything. It's not a life of choice. And so with this whole chapter going through the Raven itself is the Capitol watching over him, and then he is going crazy about his lost love Lenore inside the chamber, which like I didn't really love the Raven before, but I will respect it now based off this book. And then finally, we end off with an epilogue that is set when Burdock has a child, aka little Katniss, and how she is running around hunting with him when she's like little. She's wearing 2 braids, which is what Luella wore, and this is why he calls Katniss sweetheart, because that's what he called Luella, because they were like sweethearts, as in like platonic soulmates a little bit. And that's why he called Katniss sweetheart, because when she was little, she reminded him of Luella. But then it's a time skip for when after the games are abolished, aka after Katniss's rebellion and all of that, they're talking about his piece for the memorial book, which is like him telling the entire story of Lenore Dove and his games and everything, and basically this book. And he said after all this, Katniss brings him a batch of like geese eggs that PETA helps him like hatch, and so he has a little flock of geese just like Lenore Dove, so shout out to him. He says that he can feel Lenore Dove's spirit like aging with him, if that makes sense. So like he is never like apart from her, and she walks with him in the meadow with their geese together, and he has a little semblance of a family now because he has Katniss and PETA for however long he lives, because of that fuck ass liver that has been through so much alcohol. And then it ends with him saying that the Capitol can never take Lenore Dove from him because she's always with him. We are back at the bookshelf to give final thoughts, aka I wasn't really nervous about reading this book because I heard positive reviews on it. I didn't know it was this sad. I did like tear up, which is pretty hard for me to do, except for when you're having me read fuck ass shit like this book. I have bawled my eyes out to this multiple times, but it's sad enough to make me cry, which is hard to do. But yeah, I generally think that this is I think this might be a better prequel than Battlesong vs. Stakes, just because this ties in all of it. And does it feel a little bit like referencey in that way? Yes, but it's fine for me because I eat it up, because I don't know anything outside of like last names in that freaking universe, because I forgot Katniss's dad's name. If they didn't say Everdeen, I was like, who's fucking Burdock, you know? But yeah, I think this was a really good book. It's not Catching Fire levels, you know? Like, it's not that. On Goodreads standards, I rate it a 4 stars simply because I can't do half stars, but I think I probably would rate it a 4.5 based off like just initial thoughts. I might change that later And in which case, check out my Goodreads and my Fable, which are going to be in the description if you want to see my review on this. And also follow my letterbox if for when the movie comes out. I'm so excited to see that now that I've read it. But I'm also like really scared. I really don't want to see Megan Grace like brutally murdered by geese. I really can't do that. But thank you so much for watching. This is a new type of video for me. So if you liked it, please comment and let me know, because then I'll do more of these, because it is a good motivation for me to read, because I probably would not have like started this book if not filming this video. So thank you so much for watching. Check out my other videos. They're very different than this, but they're very good in my opinion, at least. And I released one for Halloween, which is about hard eyes. Check out my sister's channel. She did a video for spooky season as well. And thanks for watching.